I'm here today with Rachel Lieberman, who is the author of A Modern Guide to Human Design. She started her journey learning about human design with one question. Is it possible for us to live as our unique selves, doing what we love, and still thrive in the material world? Over the last few years, she found out the answer is yes. Rachel shares about human design and the Aquarian age at puregenerators.com, creating educational and thought-provoking content, products, courses, and a new AI companion, which of course we'll be talking all about because that's incredibly cool. Rachel, welcome. Thank you for doing this
Yeah, thank you for having me.
because we had a conversation already that I have become super interested in human design from a totally different end of things because my world is natural medicine and Bach flowers in particular that I've been obsessed with for the last few years. But like, how did you fall into this rabbit hole? What led you to human design?
Yeah, it was random. I actually had left my previous career as a project manager. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I just had this feeling like something is out there. I don't know. And a couple weeks later, a friend mentioned it to me, and then like another person mentioned it, and then it appeared somewhere else online. And it's odd that I actually hadn't heard of it at that point because I was into astrology, I was into healing, I'd been on this whole like spiritual journey for quite a few years at that point, like maybe 5 years. So it was just I think it was meant to find me at that time, and I think it finds everyone when they're ready. And like the third time someone mentioned it, I just had a response and I looked it up. I think actually the first time I looked it up, I looked at the chart, I was like, this makes no sense. And I just closed the window. And then the second time, I was like, okay, we're going to figure this out. So I always remember that when I try to help people figure out their human design, that is a normal first experience looking at that chart.
Yeah, I my first experience was like that too. Somebody offered to do my chart. Actually, it was a coach that I was working with at the time, and so my like the first dive into my chart was just overwhelming. There's so much stuff there and so much context that I didn't understand. Like you just can't know
Yeah.
where to put all of that information. I had no like hooks to hang anything on. But I had it done again by somebody else maybe a year ago or something, and then I was really intrigued. And now, of course, I'm right in there. But so obviously you wrote a whole book about this. Like you really got extremely knowledgeable.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really plan necessarily to do that when I started this. I immediately hooked into focusing on generators and manifesting generators just simply because I'm a generator and I felt like I can't really speak to anybody else's experience. And so I started a blog that was really about the generator, manifesting generator experience. And then the more that I posted online, people were asking questions about other things. And so in typical generator fashion, I was just responding to that and learning as I went, learning through what people were asking me, which I would say is in alignment with my 1-3 profile in human design, just research experimentation. So I learned alongside teaching. And yeah, a few years, I guess it was like 3 years into it, I'd had a feeling maybe 2 years into it, oh, I would to write a book. I just want to have that experience in my life. And I could do it about this. It could be about whatever. And then one day, just like an email appeared in my inbox, and that ended up being the editor that I worked with and the publisher. And I just ended up writing this book. And yeah, what they were looking for aligned with what I felt I could provide. And it also gave me the opportunity to talk about some topics I had never really covered before. Because I would say that while I know a lot about human design, I'm not the type of person who is like learning the theory just to learn it. I'm more of a sort of experience based person. So as things have become relevant in my life, then I've looked up deeper and deeper aspects of human design because I always like to keep it very practical. So I feel like the book it's deep. It has a lot of info, but it also is very practical. I didn't like that so much of the human design info out there was so like theory heavy.
For sure. So how long ago now did it come out?
It came out in October 2023, so it's been almost 2 years
Wow.
now. Yeah.
Almost 2 years. Good for you. I can't wait to get my copy. I haven't got it yet, but I did play with your AI
Oh, nice.
agent. So talk to me about that. You have a whole side of you that's about computer programming or developing or something. Like you're in rolled up your sleeves, like you built this AI.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a very technology forward person. I always have been. I don't know. I'm a millennial. We came of age during the time when to be on the internet and to be on a computer, you had to know some things about the back end of that. So, like at age 13, I sat in the basement all summer and learned how to code HTML and stuff like that. Yeah, I basically am just trying to stay on the cutting edge of how we share information. And I was starting to notice that there was within myself and also within the people that I have in my community of peer generators, I feel like all of us were getting a little fatigued with like courses and things like that. So I was like, okay, I feel like there's another dimension for how we can integrate this. And that's really what drove me to investigate the AI. I also had some really kind of, I don't know, transformational experiences using ChatGPT to just analyze things in my own life, like not a
Totally.
therapy replacement, but just something that can talk to you about things you're trying to figure out. And that surprised me. I didn't really expect it to be so good at that. So that was really not that long ago. That was maybe January, December of 2024, and it's now August 2025. Around that time, I was like, oh, like, could I do something that has that same type of intelligence, but has all of the knowledge that I've built up over time with all of my content and all of my creations so that people could talk to it about human design and ask it questions and also have it there to just help with spiritual growth and processing things. So I started looking into like platforms where you can do this and it's a kind of a new thing and I was able to find one that allowed me to build a knowledge base and it's a no code situation. It's you do have to probably non-techie people aren't so attracted to this at this point because you do have to know some things about it. But actually that has driven me to build my own solution more for people like us who are working in spirituality, coaches, teachers, because I feel like the solutions out there that allow people to create their own AIs with a knowledge base are more tech heavy and not so in alignment with what I would call like a feminine energy. And yeah, so that's another project I'm working on. It's not out yet, but hopefully in the next few months. Yeah, right now I'm just experimenting and learning about how someone like me uses that type of technology. I'll bring all of that into this new creation, but it's been really fun to make a lot of this information accessible to people on that other level.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I can just share that I had a very similar experience to yours of a kind of transformational interaction with ChatGPT, specifically around the Bach flowers, like the thing that I'm into. I had been having these kind of ongoing discussions with it as we were preparing. I work with a colleague in Abu Dhabi. That's my friend Sonal Singhal. We meet every week, and we're also working on a book. So just going through all the 38 flowers and looking at physical, mental, energetic indications for all these remedies and really felt like we're diving into all the books that exist and we're collating all the information and we're pulling out new things that have never been done. And at one point, I just asked ChatGPT to questions about one of the like walnut, one of these
Mm,
flower essences. And what came back just knocked us to the floor. Like it was stuff we had never thought of. It was like pulling all kinds of esoteric knowledge about the subtle bodies and all kinds of things that had not been part of what we were doing, but were so on point. Like it was
yeah.
so on point. And like we just had to say, all right, we're going to have to go back through all of the flowers now and let ChatGPT have a go at giving us information that we have not yet considered. So I also did not expect that. And I think it's really, it's one way, I guess, of many where this kind of new super intelligent machine is really helping us in our growth. Like it's just accelerating a process that would maybe eventually have happened, but this would have been 10 years of work instead of 6 months of work for sure. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know how we would have found the concordances and the alignments and the language to describe all of it. It's just so good at that. Now, having said that, as you already know, some of it gives you some bullshit. Totally gives you bullshit. And you have to read through 8 or 10 amazing, wonderful things and then go, yeah, this one is nothing. Like this is just a no. It's just wrong.
Yes.
So it requires the human expert still to know. I know people talk about like hallucinating, and I don't know if it's the same as what I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
really some of it is just wrong.
Yeah, that's part of what also drove me to create this AI is that ChatGPT at this point is not trustworthy with human
Right.
design information. A
Yeah.
lot of it will be correct. It's pulling from basically the entire internet. So anyone who has created any kind of content out there, it's going to pull from that. But it doesn't always get things right. It doesn't have, like, what I've discovered with mine is there's just these really specific little niche things you have to train it on, just things that it would have no way of knowing because it's such a generalized intelligence. And that's where I think so many people are going to be creating their own like AIs train that are a little bit more limited in knowledge, which then creates more accuracy. But yeah, it does take like you have to know how to filter it. You have to use your own intelligence. It is scary to think that people are completely outsourcing essentially their inner
Yeah.
authority or their intelligence to it, because that's really not where we want to go. But we've been through this before. It's like when Google appeared, everyone just thought like everything I find on the internet's real. And
Yeah.
now we know it's not. So it's just like a new layer of that on steroids, I would say. But yeah, it definitely still requires you to like bring your brain and expertise to the table.
Oh, absolutely. And it's also getting, the more I use it, the more I am recognizing when other people are using it. Like
Mm,
it has a smell, huh?
yep.
Like you can
Yep.
just tell this is too clever. Like a real person wouldn't make two of these amazing, like compact, succinct, perfect
Mm-hmm.
phrases, one right after the other. That's not the way that we talk. Yeah. Anyway, say something about the Aquarian age.
Yeah, I think the concept of the Aquarian age kind of explains everything we're going through right now. We're transitioning from this time of hierarchies and ordering our society in that way. You know, there's always a top, there's always someone at the bottom, and we're moving toward just a more egalitarian sort of equality based society in the Aquarian age because the one we're coming from is the Piscean age. And you wouldn't expect thinking of Piscean energy for people who are into astrology as being hierarchy, but like Pisces is about giving your power away, melding into this larger thing. And a natural byproduct of that as humans at our current level of consciousness is that then sort of someone takes that power, someone gives it away, and yeah, we're just it instead of defining yourself by this organization you belong to, this school, this profession, this family, we're defining ourselves by just our unique selves, our soul
Yeah.
selves, the things that we enjoy, the things that we believe in. And we're finding that those things often transcend the family we're born into or the geographical location or our socioeconomic level. Those things are not our defining factors. So there's just a massive power struggle right now because a lot of these old institutions and hierarchies and systems are trying to hold on to that control. And the energy is trying to tear all of that apart. So that's why we have all the crazy political stuff, the few billionaires getting richer than ever, the political uprisings, things like that. And this has been going on little by little for the last couple hundred years, but it's really coming to a head right now. And I think 2027 is actually going to be maybe the sort of the peak of this
Yeah.
transition. So, yeah, it's a very chaotic time, but I feel that understanding the Aquarian, like the transition to the Aquarian age and that energy brings a lot of like peace and understanding to what's going on instead of just feeling like everything's getting worse.
For sure. And it's really, I love this conversation because it's very aligned with how I'm thinking. But I think a lot of people feel like Age of Aquarius sounds, I don't know, a kind of like hippie spiritual thing. But for me, the interesting piece is the place of individuality in that.
Yeah.
The individual is taking a new place. And I think people are very confused about the the sort of spiritual drive towards interconnectedness.
Mm,
And but like, how does that happen at the same time as the individual is becoming more important than our like conditioned attachment to all of those things that you just talked about? And that's where human design is so brilliant because it really helps people to center in who they are at their core and to embrace their individuated self and to step away from the conditioning that has defined them until now. And I don't know, I really believe that the pathway to interconnectedness is through the doorway of individuation. You can't properly connect in a whole way until you have met your true self. And that's the context for interconnecting is from who you actually are and not from connecting because you need approval or because it's the group you've always belonged to or because it's where your security is or because you identify with other people. Like all of those things that have marked what you said, like the Piscean age that brought us to here. It was good. It was good. And
yeah.
now everybody's being faced with this, oh my God, you mean I have to be me? Like
Hmm.
I can't just be the best possible member of my family or my tribe or my religion or my community or my workplace or what if I'm just me and nobody else? You mean I have to stand all alone by myself being me? And that's
Yeah.
super scary. It's so scary. So
Yeah.
I think human design is a wonderful pathway to being good with that.
Yeah. It gives people something to hold on to.
Yeah.
And because, yeah, when you're just faced with, oh, I want to be my unique self, that is really scary. And I think I earlier in my life felt that drive, but it was so overwhelming and so intimidating that I couldn't really step into it fully because it was like, but these other things are so, you receive so much like social validation, or you're not lonely, or like you don't, when you step into your full individuated self, you always face a little bit of rejection from the world out there because,
By definition.
yeah, the world just has not deconditioned. So we're not quite in an atmosphere that fully supports that yet. We're getting there and it's getting better and better. But yeah, this gives that roadmap to that, and it gives an explanation for all of these inclinations that I think we naturally feel. And like an example of this is I think my whole life I felt like, oh, I really want to just create this space to be like really in my own world and thoughts and creative process. But I grew up in a family of people who were like highly social. So it was always like socializing, hosting, having people over the house, living for those connections. And that actually is right for like my parents. That is part of their human design, their fourth line profiles. But for me as a 1-3, I don't have that energy. I became more like them. But then I felt this gnawing inside of this isn't really that. There's just like this thing I want to do. Like I want to shut all of that out sometimes. And yeah, just like in the past 6 years since I've deconditioned, I've been able to like fully step into that. And it's not always easy. There's part of me that kind of misses like being that other way, but I feel so much more comfortable and like purposeful in myself and just aligned and powerful. And yeah, so there's always going to be, and it's not like I haven't reached. had any pushback on that or whatever. But
Say a little more about deconditioning because I think, as you said it just now, like it it can sound, I think, to some people like a kind of weird cult brainwashing process or something. Oh
yeah.
my God, she's gone into human design and now she's all deconditioned and we don't know her anymore. But say more about
Yeah.
that, where like the idea and what it's all about.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people like every once in a while I'll see someone saying, "Oh, I don't understand like human design. It feels like a cult. It feels," which is like really weird to me because actually it's kind of like the opposite. Like it's I guess
Exactly.
you can turn anything into a cult if you like make it about a central person and rules and all that stuff. But that's really like the opposite of what human design is supposed to be about. And it's basically the idea is that you should be making your decisions for yourself. So if that's the cult message, I don't know what to tell you. That's not
Yeah.
really, that's kind of the opposite of a cult. But it's basically like deconditioning is it's not this like step by step thing that someone has laid out for you. It's more like a lens that you view your life through. And the idea is that if you tap into your inner authority, we all have one. Are you someone who, you know, feels things in your gut, like a yes or no? That's a lot of us. Are you someone who has to get awareness through an emotional lens? Are you someone who has to talk it out with someone? There's a lot of different inner authorities. And so you learn to tap into that so that you can make your own decisions without asking for permission or being influenced by the outer world. And then we each have a strategy too for our type. So, are you someone who waits for the invitation, like a projector, like a generator or MG? Do you wait to respond to something, to feel something in your body that's like moving you forward? There's a lot of different strategies as well. So that's like the main vehicle for the deconditioning. You could actually only learn that about your design and your entire life would transform. You don't even need the other stuff. So it's important to start there, but that is what you hold with you each day. And as you make these decisions one by one, because we make tons of decisions in our lives, maybe not so many big ones, but we make a lot of small decisions, who we spend time with, what order we do things with, where do we go, what do we eat. There's all these decisions that we're constantly making. And the more you make those in alignment with that inner authority, the more your true self emerges and you slough off the external pressures from the outside world that are telling you how to live. So it's like, even if you're working in a traditional 9 to 5 corporate job or whatever, which I did for many years, and I still feel that during those years, I still learned a lot about myself and tapped into that thing. I didn't know what it was because I didn't know about human design back then. But it's you have decisions in life. So it's like people are always approaching you with things and you can say yes or no, or you can just only pay attention to external expectations. And then all of a sudden you'll wake up, and this is rampant in society right now. You wake up and you realize, I don't even know who I am. All I've ever done was what my mom wanted me to do, my dad, and then the school, and then the university, and then the job, and the boss, and the government, whatever. Yeah, we have a lot more choices than we think we do. Some things are still hard. Like it can take a while to break out of some of those things, but it gets easier and you just do it like a little bit at a time until you realize, oh my gosh, my entire life is different.
That's really great. And what do you, this is like the confluence of my work and yours in particular, but I'm curious, like, I think for each person, there are some of those changes are easier to make than others. And so, what is the process of, I don't know, maybe it's just like self-reflection, journaling, repeated trying, but like to make shifts in things that just feel too scary or where the conditioning is too heavy to
Yeah.
somehow overcome it.
No, it's a really good question. And something that I always try to tell people is that you can't really live your design until your basic needs, either your basic sort of material needs are met, or you have quite a strong nervous system or like a healthy nervous system, because I feel like at this point I can take quite a few risks in terms of like money and stability because I've really built up my nervous system to trust the process. But when I first started, I was very fearful about how am I going to survive? How am I going to make money? How am I going to do all these things and try to live as my true self? So, like, you don't want to push it. And there are so many other modalities out there that can help you with those things. Go to therapy, go to an energy healer. Yeah,
Yeah.
use some
Yeah.
flower essences. There's so many things out there. So, yeah, I feel like human design works in tandem with all of these other things that can help you heal. And healing is such an important part of it. If you're just not in a good place physically, emotionally, mentally, it's going to be very hard to honor that inner authority because it's a scary thing to do. It just is, or it can be at first. So, yeah, you have to build up that health on all these levels to be able to live like this, I would say. Yeah.
And then at the next level, and healing is a word that has so much context about it that maybe it's not even right to say that there's a next level. Maybe it's all healing. But
Yeah.
at the level where you are, I always like to think about Maslow's
Me too.
hierarchy,
That's what I used to. Yeah.
so like when you're really about self-actualization and eventually self-transcendence, I think human design comes in again because you get to look at places where you don't you don't recognize where
Mm,
some aspect of your design where you're not being true to yourself and holding yourself back. Evolution. So it's like you get to look at it again from going around and around again through the cycle of needs to just say, wow, I had no idea that I was stuck there because I'm like dealt with that. It's going to
mm-hmm.
come back in some other more subtle way that the more evolved or expanded you get, the more subtle the little blockages are, and they're harder and harder to see. So that's where I think like diving into your human design or even revisiting some basic level
Yeah.
concepts help you to push away the curtain for a next level, even where it's not about healing a wound or
Mm,
coming some kind of, I mean, we are all conditioned to see reality in a certain way. Like it's all
yeah.
conditioning. And at some point, you're up against your conditioning of certain kinds of beliefs that are really hard to change, like that I am actually in charge of everything in my environment. Everything
Yeah.
that I'm experiencing that I don't want is there because I put it there.
Yeah.
Everything. And that's a very hard conditioned belief, right? We're all conditioned with peekaboo when we're babies to have like object permanence, and our
Yeah.
brains are wired to think that things are real that maybe aren't as real as we think. And so there are levels and levels of deconditioning, get overcoming the conditioning that we came into the world with and that we were raised with to be able to to live as human beings. You have to play the game. You can't be very successful in real life and not ever having developed something like object permanence.
Yep.
So it's a very cool tool for expanding yourself wherever you happen to be in your journey.
It is. And I think it's like human design isn't the path. It's more like a science or awareness tool that helps you on the path. Because I feel
Yeah.
like our souls take us on the path no matter what. That is becoming very clear to me. Like, yeah, you revisit these things over and over, even when you've done a lot of healing. But it can be something like, yeah, maybe you start experimenting with eating with your human design diet, your ideal one,
Mm.
or spending more time in your environment. Then that opens this floodgate for all of these other experiences that you're meant to have that grow your soul or whatever. So, yeah, I definitely agree that yeah, it's like it helps you if you're listening to your inner authority, it's like it's taking you to those things more efficiently that will help you have the experience your soul is meant to have. So yeah, that's why I can never separate human design from like I always talk about, yeah, like soul purpose. And then I also talk about subconscious reprogramming. Like all of those things are so linked to me. Like those are just two concepts that I feel are very linked to human design, though human design itself officially does not talk about those things. But I think that's like really important like work and understanding to have about yourself. And yeah, the beliefs that we get, it's a couple things. Like I've noticed that when you start deconditioning and listening to your inner authority, One is that you start losing those survival skills that you developed, which is
Mm.
very scary for a lot of
Wow.
people. So, like, I noticed that when I started deconditioning and I started, because my deconditioning fully coincided with actually using my energy to do something that like I love and enjoy as like a job. Because before that, I had a job that was like fine. It was like satisfying enough. And really, what I was looking for at that time in my life was just to be able to support myself and whatever. So that was fine. But I had like developed all of these skills that really just weren't true to me. Like I had to learn how to be really extroverted and really analytical and all of these things that once I stepped out of that type of environment and was just in my own environment, I was like, oh my God, I can't do that stuff anymore. And it was like very scary for me because I was like, how am I going to survive? But I don't need to do it. If you're listening to your inner authority, either you like get the skill back or you just don't need it. So, yeah, that definitely happens for people. That's very common. It can be very disconcerting. And also, yeah, like I had an experience this year where I suddenly remembered like just this whole relationship I'd had from age 18 to 23 that like I had made peace with how it ended, but I just shoved it down. I was like, we're going to
Yeah.
keep it moving. And even though I had done tons of healing, I think I thought because I had made a decision at the end that was like aligned for me and it was correct, that I just didn't need to revisit. I don't know. It just never came up again. But for whatever reason, this year it came up and I was like, oh my God, like I left parts of myself back in that. It was like I developed these beliefs about myself that I was still carrying that were holding me back were not even true because my lens of just viewing that thing at the time was really distorted by like wounding and trauma and conditioning and whatever. And now once I had healed on these other levels, I could look back at it with this like much more clear perspective and almost just go back and reclaim myself or just remold who I was at that age or who I perceive myself to be. So it's really interesting. I didn't expect that at this point. I truly didn't. So there's good surprises on the journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's
Yeah.
how it happens. You clear away a layer and some other stuff that's in the archives, bubbles up to the surface to be dusted off and filed or burned or whatever you're going to do with it. But
Hmm.
that's totally how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like you're just every decision, every little decision you make that's taking you toward that unique, authentic version of yourself, it's going to push up against anything that's distorted or anything that's not in alignment with that and bring it up for healing. It makes sense.
I'm just going to say a word about the usefulness of this in relationships for knowing your partner's human design or your parents or your children or whatever. Just for myself, I have a daughter who is an adult, but like all of her life, we have butted heads around the idea that she does not like to talk and share and be open about her feelings, which
Mm.
is so much a part of who I am. Like I'm a talker. Maybe that's why I have a podcast. But the idea of that I have a defined throat center and she doesn't or whatever, it was like, oh, she's not just not doing what I want her to do. Like we're not built the same way. It's not
Yeah.
dysfunctional. It's not a sign that something is wrong and I have to keep prying and prodding and begging and whatever. And she probably thinks the opposite. Oh my God, will my mother leave me alone about this? Like why does she want to do that all the time? That's so disgusting to me. Like who would want
Yeah.
to talk like that? And so we're just so wired differently and it really helps to know. I know that people often talk about Enneagram being something that is so useful in relationships, and I'm sure that's true. I don't mean that it's not, but really human design can be so useful in understanding why you have certain really fundamental conflicts with someone you love. And it's, oh, we're just wired differently. And we can come to some agreement, or we can just understand that it's not ever going to go flow for the both of us in the way that we would wish if we could always be in contact with people who are the same as us, which doesn't happen in the world. But yeah, super useful tool
Yeah,
for
and to
understanding
bring it
relationships.
back to what you were saying earlier, that is, I think, in this age, the key to oneness is
Right.
like the key to oneness is understanding that we're all different, oddly enough. And once you accept that, then you put everyone on the same plane together. It's like
Yeah.
you're separate but interconnected. And yeah, to your point, especially now, we're interacting with people all over the world that have had completely different experiences from us. Whereas maybe thousands of years ago, we would only ever meet people who were like in our little village, our little
Yeah.
geographical vicinity. So probably back then it was fairly safe to assume that other people were like you. Or that's a sort of a rudimentary type of like empathy, I guess, to like project that other people are like you. That is one of the main, I guess, like concepts of the Piscean age is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that was a really important evolution for humanity. Like that was good because I think leading up to that, there was a lot of war. Like the age before that was
Right.
just warring and power struggles. So then we come into this place where it's, I love everybody. Everybody is me. We are all one. That was really important. I'm really glad we did that. But now we don't need that anymore. We've cemented that as human beings. And now we have to go to this new level where it's like, everybody is not like me. Everybody deserves the same respect and decency and understanding as I do, but they could be completely different from me in so many different ways. And yeah, human design just gives us that language, that toolkit for like understanding the specific mechanics of that. So it really is efficient in that way because yeah, like other modalities can speak to that, but I don't think they're as specific in just it's like pointing to someone's body part. Oh, okay, so they have like long fingers, so now I know this about them. It's like human design is like that. It's okay, yeah, their throat.
Yeah.
They have defined emotions. That's why they're much more expressive in that way and it overwhelms me. So, yeah, it's like the more we understand everyone's individuality, the more we can accept them and accept ourselves. And then it just creates this like much more open world where we're not projecting ourselves onto everybody else.
Imagine that.
I know, right?
Yeah. And the reverse sense of what you just talked about, like, I think there's so much peace for people who can understand, like, oh, that's why I'm not like the other people in my
Mhm.
family. No wonder they don't understand me.
Yeah.
They're totally not like me. Like, how could I expect them to understand me? They're totally wired different. And that's why it's not that I'm deficient, it's that we're made differently. And that can be so liberating, I think, for people to
Yeah.
come to some understanding of what what didn't feel right, like that you didn't feel seen or understood in your family of origin, which is practically everyone in a funny way. And the idea that our parents, our siblings are made of a different cloth and it's correct.
Mhm.
We get to be who we are, not trying to be like them and understanding why they want us to be like them because they also don't get it that we're all, maybe everybody can learn about human design. The idea that we were conditioned to be like our family and fought against something inside ourselves,
Yeah.
and then to have a vocabulary for how that happened and why it's 100% to be yourself and to give everybody else grace for not having understood that because you're also just figuring it out.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be really exciting for generations of parents to have this knowledge too. The first kids in the last couple decades, but really it's picking up now. So, really, just kids born this decade with parents who have this awareness will have a huge advantage because even from some of this stuff manifests from the time people are small, like babies. People have said, I'm a manifester, and my mom always said I didn't like to be picked up. And then that parent is feeling, oh my God, like I'm never holding my baby, I'm not cuddling my baby, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, or they're a generator or a manifesting generator and they're cuddling that baby 24/7, and that baby is a reflector or a projector
Yeah.
who is like completely overwhelmed by
Right.
that. Even just, it doesn't mean that you use that like prescriptively, but if you have that awareness, you can start to notice, like, okay, is my child behaving that way? Yeah, they are. Okay. So that makes sense. And then I know how to engage with that in a way where I'm
Right.
not making them feel wrong about how they are. So it'll be really exciting for kids to be raised with this. Some kids have been already, but just not as many. So it'll be exciting to have a lot of kids raised with this awareness. And
That's a lovely note to end on. That's a very optimistic note. I'm so happy that you came to do this today. This was a great conversation. Tell
yeah.
people where to find you online.
Yeah, you can find me at puregenerators.com. That's where everything is. I'm also on Instagram as at puregenerators. And yeah, thank you
We'll
so
put
much for
all that
having me.
we'll put all that in the show notes. Thanks again, Rachel. This was great.
Yeah, I'm really glad you reached out as a like-minded, Aquarian-minded person. That was really exciting, and I'm really glad we could have this convo.
Me too. Take care.